Okay, I'm going to mention another fear specifically. It's the fear of abandonment, the fear of loneliness, and I'm going to give you another one to kind of attach to that because they're very similar, and that's the fear of rejection. Now, here's the thing that we know from brain research. Even the kind of thought of rejection or the thought of being abandoned or losing a relationship, that has immediate wiring to the system that produces, the whole amygdala and the limbic system and all that produces a sense in your body, actually called dread. And when you feel dread, because I might be rejected, that's what you're gonna feel. But I want you to begin to treat that, like I said earlier, it's a false alarm, okay? But it's only a false alarm. You're only going to be alone if you're alone, right? It's simple math. Now, I'm not saying this stuff isn't painful, and if you take a tough stand in a relationship and you get rejected or abandoned, at least for a minute or a season, or maybe even sometimes the addict goes away and says, I don't want to get sober. You're only going to be alone if you haven't done the right step first, and that is fear is always dealt with in the context of safety. So I love it when somebody says, I'm going to face my fears, and they immediately go on the buddy system and they surround themselves with some people that are going to walk through that moment with them, and they're going to encourage them and say, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. We're going to still be here. Even if that happens, we're going to still be here. And then you know that on the other side of that step of taking boundaries, there's not aloneness, there's support, and you're going to land somewhere. And if it does go bad and you're in a conflict for a while and you have some disruption in that relationship and they go off and maybe you want to stay on drugs or stay abusive, wherever they're going to be for a while longer before they get the light and turn back, you're not alone, okay? Now, on the approval thing, it's very similar. I mentioned this earlier. In that army around you, you got to have people that are for you. And the other thing we got to do is we got to rewire this stuff in our head about approval. Why do we need approval all the time? I mean, we need people that like us and say, attaboy and all that. Our brain needs that. But we also need to detoxify disapproval. That can be some of the most helpful times of life. We're talking about boundaries here, and I might talk about something that my team here says, no, that wasn't a good point. It's not helpful. They didn't approve of that. Great, that's wonderful. But we don't have to be afraid of that. We can welcome it. It's called feedback. But you've got to be in a setting. Here's the thing about these fears. You surround yourself with people that are for you instead of against you. And then fear begins to look like a gnat or a fly instead of a big monster or a dragon. So when you're looking at these fears, remember the support piece, having yourself surrounded, is going to be a huge, huge part of this, even in the retraining of your brain. Now, after that, there's a second part of it, and I'll talk to you about that one in a minute.